Hey, I'm Juliet. When it comes to the sport of kings, I only trust one source, Past the Wire TV.
There are all kinds of ways to prepare to go into battle. I prefer this.
Sure, bad coffee.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, presented by Wager.
Okay, let's see if we could come racing in and do this right. Ciao tutti. Past the Wire TV. Thank you all for tuning in. We got the clock, one of the big end of the year races for the older horses by the Thorograph Numbers and Patterns. And we're actually going to get into the race a little bit this time. You know, normally we do these shows and we limit it to the, numbers and patterns and what they tell us about who's fast, who's not fast enough, who's moving forward, who's, likely to bounce and that. But a couple of people asked me to kind of get into the race a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do. You ring, we bring. So we'll get into it in a minute. But one thing I wanted to touch base on, because I think it's something that is important and a good takeaway, not only for the clock, but for racing at this time of the year. I want to talk a little bit about 3-year-olds against older horses, and we're going to see one, in the clock, maybe two, and I think it's important to note that this is the time of year when betting 3-year-olds against older horses, in my opinion, and the opinion of others as well, kind of changes and kind of balances it out. First thing you've got to realize is the lack of a better term, the development factor. Okay, the 3-year-olds late in the year, whether they're early or late, foals really doesn't matter. Time doesn't lie. Later in the year, they become more developed. So, when you put a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old against a 21, 22, 23-year-old, they're at a significant disadvantage. But when you get to that 18, 19-year-old against a 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old, it kind of, narrows the gap. So they tend to get into better form late in the year. They tend to develop late in the year. They tend to kind of get more comfortable with their running style and the way that they race and knowing what's going on and what to do. So the gap with the older horses narrows, in my opinion. Now, with that, and there's a lot of debate on how much this means or doesn't mean, but be it you're a fan of it and a believer or not, it certainly doesn't hurt. There's no argument there. They get a little bit of a weight break in a lot of these races. Sometimes it's only 2 or 3 pounds, but that can make a difference in a head bob race or a neck finish. And sometimes it's more than that. So you're getting a more mature, more developed, more rounded out horse, getting that weight break for being a 3-year-old when it really might not be as much of a physical disadvantage. It's certainly not as much of a physical disadvantage as it is earlier in the year, in the summertime. When horses do it in, July and August, I think they're at a bigger disadvantage than they are at this time of year. So that's something to keep in mind, not only for the clock, but for other races going forward. We like to give out these little things that people might take away, and it might click and hit you when you're, handicapping or studying a race down the road, and you're, looking to zig or zag and not sure which way to go. Bing, may help. May hurt. You never know. But, it certainly can help. And it's certainly something that you should consider and you should factor in because it does make a difference. And we're going to have an example in the clock that we could look at. So without further ado, BS, whatever you want to call it, let's get into the clock. We've got what? We've got 9 horses, older horses for the most part, couple of 3-year-olds, some nice horses. I know, no real superstars, but a nice grade 2, a mile and an eighth around Churchill Downs. Hopefully the weather is it's been a little rough at Churchill and Louisville of late. Hopefully that'll kind of balance out, and hopefully we could, look at this race and see who gets the keys to the AMG. Yeah. Cook Creek from the rail for Mike Maker, Francisco Arrieta. This horse is going to be a price. Ran a lot more at 4 and 5 than he did at 3 and 6. But this year he really ran a fast race last time. So he ran a 0 1/4 negative last time out. But going from his first race this year, he goes 5, 10 3/4, 6, 0 1/4 negative. So he's got 4 starts and he's coming off a 5, 6, more. 6-point, jump forward. I'm not in love with the pattern. That's a really, really fast race, but I see a regression. He's regressed off tops in the past. He's got a 1 last year. He bounced after the 1 to a 3 3/4. He come back, run another 1 3/4 after that, and then bounced to a 4. So I see a likely regression from Cook Creek, and I never like to take a horse almost under any circumstances that I see on a regressing pattern. Unless they can regress and win, and even then, I'm not wild about it. I'd rather take somebody I think is maintaining, or better yet, going forward. Cook Creek to me looks like a regression. First Mission, interesting horse. Never runs bad on Thorograph. Always seems to run fast, and that's whether he runs his A race or not. He's just a fast horse, but he never gets it done against the best company. But this race is kind of the race where, he maybe can get it done. It's not the stellar or best company. This is a grade 2, not a grade 1. And I think the field reflects that to an extent. So this is definitely the kind of race that First Mission can win. I apologize. Luigi's barking in the background and getting everybody else stirred up. So just bear with me. A lot of dogs in that pack. Okay, First Mission. Last time out at Santa Anita, he runs a 2 1/2. Before that, we'll start from the bottom. First time out, Oaklawn Park, 1 1/2 negative. 2 negative, 1 1/2, 1 1/4 negative, 2 1/2. So he's kind of got a little really good, really good kind of pattern going, coming back to a really good race. And his numbers are all good. I mean, even last year he's 8 1/2. That wasn't so good, but he bounced right back to 1 1/2 negative, 1 1/4 negative, 1 1/2, 1 1/2. His 4 and 5-year-old years, he's just been fast for the most part. So he's absolutely a contender. He's probably going to run a 1, maybe a 0, maybe a 1 negative somewhere in that, because that's what he brings on his A game, and it looks like he's coming to an A race. So I think 5 to 1 with Flavien Prat on the morning line is extremely generous. I don't think he'll be that, but he's definitely a horse to reckon with in here for sure. Hit Show. This is a horse I loved last time out. Most of you know that, or at least some of you will know that. He won, got the job done at a fair price. He's had a really good 5-year-old year. I don't know why more people didn't like him last time out, but we'll take it. 0 3/4, 2.5, 0 3/4 out in Dubai. Huge race. 4 1/4, first race back. 0 1/4, 3. 1 negative last time out. I think he's got a forward moving pattern, and I will tell you why. The Dubai race knocked him out a little bit. Then he ran a big race. Then he regressed a little bit. Then he ran another big race. Now, why do I think he's not going to regress a little bit? Because he has strung these fast races together in the past. Last year, I see 0 3/4, comes back with a 0 3/4. Why do I think he's going to do that again or repeat? Because I think the Dubai trip knocks a lot out of horses, and it takes them a couple of starts to get their rhythm, get their mojo, get their form cycle back going. And I think based off his last race, he's got that. That doesn't mean I'm landing on him, and we'll get to that. But I definitely see him, bringing it again and being one of the ones who's running at the end, similar to how he did last time. Gazzale, 3-year-old. 3-year-old that ran some big races earlier in the year, and now kind of, you don't really hear nothing about him as one of the good 3-year-olds. And most of you who watch the show know how I feel about the 3-year-olds this year. I think the 3-year-olds last year, I'm not going to get into that whole story again, clearly outshined the 3-year-olds this year on the racetrack in a huge way. But what do we got with Gazzale? We got a horse that ran once at 2, 9.5, nothing special. Vet scratch at Gulfstream Park to start the year, nothing special. But then he goes 5 1/4, 4 1/2, 0 1/4, 0 1/4. He regresses at Parks, a funny track, to 3 1/4. Still a fast, good race. Then he runs a 0 last time out at Keeneland. 3-year-old, late in the year, developing, going against older, getting 2-3 pounds weight break. I think sitting on a career race. I like the third race of his form cycle late in the year. Earlier in the year, he did repeat. He went 4 1/2, 0 1/4, 0 1/4. Now we got a little bit faster, 3 1/4, 0. I see a faster race than the 0, which puts him square in the mix here against older horses. With the right trip and that little bit of a weight break, I think we got a very dangerous 3-year-old in the clock in Gazzale. Luis Saez, blinkers on. Blinkers is a question mark, but Brendan Walsh has been having a great, not only year, last couple of years, so I'll have to trust in him to know what he's doing and say that Gazzale is a major player. Chunk of Gold. He's an interesting horse. Another one developing really, really nicely as a 3-year-old. Also gets that little bit of a weight break, but he only gets a pound where Gazzale gets 2. But here's what we got. We got 1 start, 8 1/4 at Turfway on the synthetic at 2 in December. I don't really think that means a whole lot. But what do we got at 3? We got 10 1/2, 5, 5, 8. But here's where it starts to get interesting from late June. 5, 4 1/4, 4 1/4, 2. Absolutely a forward moving pattern. Definitely see a 1. Definitely see a 0. Can probably even go past that. And if he does, he becomes a contender. But I think Gazzale's done what he's done against a little bit better, with a little less experience than Chunk of Gold. So I'm going to lean, if there's a 3-year-old I'm going to lean to, I'm going to lean to Gazzale over Chunk of Gold. But I think Chunk of Gold is extremely dangerous and is definitely a horse that's got an improving Thorograph pattern and is getting faster and better. Rattle and Roll. He is an old timer, has been around a long time. Danced a lot of dances. Danced a lot of dances at 3. Danced plenty of dances at 4. Only 2 at 5. But at 6, he's gone 2 1/4, 0 3/4, 5, 8, 0. Again, I've said it before in these shows. If you watch them and you got a good memory, Kenny McPeak always stumps me with patterns. His horses just never have the kind of patterns that I find easy to read and easy to decipher. They're always all over the place. You got big jumps forward. You've got inconsistencies. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's how he trains. Maybe it's how he points for races. Maybe it's something I'm completely overlooking. I don't know. But it's been that way for years with this guy. Very tough to read his horses on Thorograph for me. I don't use the regs anymore, so I don't know if it spills over to the regs or not. But on Thorograph, just a tough guy to read. But we gotta try. So 2 1/4, 0 3/4, 5, 8, 0. I'm going to say regression. I'm going to say big forward move, 8 points. Should theoretically regress off of that. So rattle and roll, I'm voting for a regression. Who dey? Who dey? Who dat? Okay. Only a couple of starts at 4, 6 3/4, 2 3/4, 2. Certainly is running better than he's ever run before. He's 30-1 on the morning line. He's got a forward moving pattern. He's on Thorograph alone. We're going to talk about the racing and the past performances, but on Thorograph alone, he's got a forward moving pattern, and he doesn't have to go forward a lot to become a contender. Willie D. And we expect that. No discouragement on having a lot of horses that are going forward. We identify who's going backwards, we identify who's going forwards, and we hope we can put it all together. Willie D's second one from Mike Maker. As a 4-year-old, plenty of starts, 11.5, a vet scratch at Oaklawn Park way back in February. 3, 3, 3. There's that steady 3, 3, 3. And sure enough, the forward move, 2 1/4, 1.5, 0.5, and then regresses to an 8 3/4. Don't like the pattern. I do think he can bounce back off that big regression, but bounce back 8 points to a 0 or 7 points to a 1 where he's got to be in order to win this. I don't see that. So he gets a nay. Last horse we got, Magnitude, the third 3-year-old in the bunch. Interesting horse because he showed a new dimension last time out, coming from way back. But as a 3-year-old, we've got 9 1/4, 0.5. Bang. 3 1/4, 8.5. 1 at Parks, and now runs back at Churchill Downs off a little bit of a break. Every time this horse has run a new top, he's regressed. He didn't run a new top last time out because he's got that 0.5 back in February at the fairgrounds, but he certainly made a 7-point forward move last time out. So to me, he looks like a horse regressing. So we'll start going backwards before we look at the PPs. Magnitude looks like he's regressing. Willie D looks like he's going to go forward, but not enough. Houday, dangerous, going forward. Rattle and Roll looked like a regression. Chunk of Gold, dangerous going forward. Gazzale, dangerous going forward. Hit Show, consistent. Should bring it. First Mission, very consistent. Should bring it. Cook Creek looked like a regression. So that's how the Thorograph numbers and patterns shape up, in my opinion. Now what we're going to do, which we've never done on this show, is we're going to look at the PPs real quick. I'm not going to call this a deep dive, but I'm going to call it a nice look. How's that? A nice look at the PPs combined with the Thorograph and see what we can make of this Clark grade 2. Cook Creek on the rail. We didn't like his pattern. He's okay over the track. Doesn't excel over it, but certainly handles it. Okay at the distance. Doesn't excel. Certainly handles it. But he's a $40,000 claim who's moved up. He'd have to run or the race of his life. Thorograph doesn't tell me he's sitting on that, and even the race of his life might not win. First mission. Definitely we like his pattern. He's back from a race at Santa Anita to Goodwood that Nevada Beach won. Full Serrano, a Breeders' Cup winner, came second. The horse that run third, Privman, come out of the race to win. So it's certainly a key race. Nevada Beach didn't run good in the Breeders' Cup, but certainly came back and ran good last weekend at Del Mar when he got up and won. Although he had to really fight for that win. It was a gritty win, but he did get the job done. But First Mission is back at Churchill Downs, back with Pratt, and still looking to deliver that big race against the best. But these ain't the best, so I got to say he can certainly bounce back and run a race. But I'm not going to bet on him. Hit Show, who I loved last time. Paid $357 for $1. I thought that was a gift. Got up, got it done. I think he's going to come again. He's 11 for 22 lifetime. A very, very, very honest racehorse. A very underrated racehorse. But I don't think the pace is as good for him as it was last time, and I just don't land on him this time. Gazzale is who I land on. I think this is an interesting 3-year-old. He's only 4-1 on a morning line. I thought he would be and should be higher than that. He tried older last time out, first time in October. Now it's a month later. At 3-year-old, I think gains a lot over this month. Puts blinkers on. Had a very, very wide post at Keeneland. Not ideal last time. Ran a really, really good race. I forgive the Pennsylvania Derby. I like the pattern on him. He just looks like a late developing 3-year-old that I think, his Preakness and his Haskell to journalism showed his class. All right, journalism wasn't all that against older horses, but when journalism was beating this guy was very green and inexperienced, and journalism was a seasoned racehorse. So I think Gazzale's got a big shot on Friday. I was going to say Saturday, but on Friday. Chunk of Gold, another one. I like the pattern, but he's kind of needed a little bit lesser to win. But again, he's got a dangerous pattern. He doesn't have to go forward a lot to contend. I think he can definitely sneak into the race and maybe win it if things go right. And Junior's a strong finisher, so I think he's dangerous. Rattle and Roll, I didn't like. He does like Churchill. He's 4 for 10. He's 4 for 13 at the distance. But I think we've kind of seen the best of him, and I thought he was looking like a horse that would regress. Now, here's the interesting horse that I think warrants some discussion. Houdet. Why does he warrant some discussion? Because he's got a shot, and he's 30-1 on the morning line. I might be the only guy, and those who are paying attention and take a look and say, you know what, maybe we might be the only ones that think that this Ohio bred has a chance to upset this race at a huge number. But I think he does. Now, obviously, everything would have to go really, really right. But you got a horse who's 8 for 13. He knows how to win. He's got a win in a second and 4 starts at the racetrack. He's gone 1.25 miles and 1. He's never gone 1 mile and 1/8. But he's actually 2 for 2 at the 1.25 miles against lesser. I get it, but he handles 1 mile and 1/16. So I can't think that the distance is going to be any problem for him at all. He's going in the right direction. And if he doesn't win, he's certainly a horse that could jump up and get into the superfecta in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th slot and make the superfecta interesting, especially if the favorite doesn't win the race. So you know, the way I bet, I could see myself in a race like this, betting Gazga in the multi-race wages, betting Gazga to win, and then betting Gazga in the superfecta with Houday in the second slot, all in the third slot, with all in the second and fourth slot, and in the last slot with all in the second and third slots, if that makes sense. So it's basically Gazga and Houday with all in the other slots, but Gazga's got to win, and Houday's got to get in the money for me to hit that superfecta. And it could wind up paying, because I think Gaza is going to be every bit of 4-1, or maybe even more than that. So if I'm right about that whole angle, we could get paid there. Willie D's 0 for 3 at Churchill, 5 for 23 lifetime. Not exactly a win machine. Handles the distance. Another claim. Again, I think he needs a little softer to do the kind of damage that you want to see him do. Now, magnitude's interesting. It looked like a speed horse, and all of a sudden he comes out from off the pace to run second to Baeza in what I think was a strong Pennsylvania Derby. Now, Baeza didn't come back and run any good in the Breeders' Cup Classic, but none of the 3-year-olds did. Journalism didn't. Sovereignty didn't even run. Baeza didn't run any good. Journalism didn't really run any good. Nevada Beach didn't run any good. The other 3-year-old that ran in there. So that's a bit of a knock. I'm not sure what he's going to do as far as pace-wise. I think there is pace in this race. So if he can sit, I think he's probably better off sitting. He's lightly raced. He's 4 for 10. He's improving. He's got some fast races. But I don't know that he's this good, and I don't know that he's this good now. And, the best thing I could say for him, and it's no knock on Ben Curtis, but the jockey switch to Jose Ortiz from Ben Curtis kind of jumps out at you. But enough for me to like him, no. I'm going to land on Gazga and hope for an improving race for this 3-year-old, and hopefully see him validate some of what we talked about earlier on the show. And even if he doesn't, that's still a good angle to pay attention to going forward. A lot of great racing coming up. We got Stars of the Future, or Future Stars, Saturday at Churchill Downs. Next weekend, we got the Cigar Mile and all the races that surround that. The Remsen race I always like. So plenty of races and plenty of stuff coming up, and plenty of stuff that we'll be covering right here on Past the Wire TV. But we'll get to all of that. Right now, what I want to do is, first off, I want to thank every single one of you that tunes in. Those of you that like the show, those of you that don't like the show but watch it for whatever reason, those of you that enjoy the Past the Wire TV content, that enjoy my takes, that support the channel, that support Past the Wire, those of you that come say hello, that come to our seminars, that like the videos, because if you like and subscribe to the channel and like the videos and leave a comment, it helps with the YouTube algorithms tremendously. I notice every single one of you, and I try and answer you all and get to everybody. But it gets a little overwhelming, and I got a bunch of dogs and other stuff to keep everything going. It's not sometimes as easy as it looks. But I want to, at this time of year and this week in particular, thank every one of you. Every single one. I think we've got 8,000 subscribers to Past the Wire TV. So I've got 8,000 thank yous that I'm saying right now, plus and counting, and a lot more people that visit the website. So, I mean, like I said, I see all of you. I appreciate all of you. I do this for all of you. It means so much that we get that kind of support, and that I get that kind of support. And even the people that don't agree and come with negative comments and come, complaining, I don't mind. I welcome it when it's intelligent. I welcome it. Horses will humble everybody. It's a tough game. It's tough to put your public opinion out there. It's not easy, but it doesn't faze me. I welcome the comments. I welcome the dialogue, as long as we're respectful of each other. We don't always have to agree. How fucking boring, excuse my language, how friggin' boring would it be if we all agree with everything that everybody else says all the time? We don't need to agree. But if we bounce stuff off each other, if something makes sense, resonates, I'm a funny better. I put blinkers on. I got my sunglasses on because I don't want to see, hear, nothing that anybody else thinks I'm, that hard head calibrated mentality that I don't want to know nothing when I'm betting. But that's just me. But we still interact. You still get stuff from it. So I hope all of you and all of yours have a wonderful, healthy, warm, loving Thanksgiving. All the best through the holiday season. And those of you that are hurt and struggling through the holidays, all right? And there's a lot of people out there that fall into that category. I want to let you know something. Number one, remember, you are not alone, all right? You're definitely not alone. There's a lot of people that struggle and hurt through life and through the holidays, all right? Always try and get your strength and the fight and courage to go on from God. He will never let you down. That's number one. Number two, if you need somebody to talk to, if you're that down, if you just reach out, I'm here. If you send me a message like that, you could rest assured I will respond. I don't leave nobody hanging that reaches out like that. If you need some prayer, if you need some support, if you need some help, I got you. Reach out. I'm limited at what I could do, but what I can do, I will do. I got you. So much love to everybody that supports us. What I will always do, and you could always count on, is I will always call it the way I see it. I will always stand on my opinion and by what I believe is right, whether I'm standing with many or whether I'm standing alone. Doesn't matter. It won't be the first time in either of those scenarios. So have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. For me, I prefer macaroni to turkey any day of the week. My mom used to make lasagna and turkey on Thanksgiving. I used to say, you have the turkey, give me the lasagna. And I ain't never changed from that mentality. So with that, hopefully this is how we all leave the racetrack or end our betting days this weekend. Oh yeah. And ciao for now. Are they talking about us? Shh. Wait. Are they talking about us? I think I heard Past the Wire. Past the Wire TV. They are talking about us. Often imitated, never duplicated. We are everywhere. Seriously? If you're betting horses and not watching these shows, you gotta be freaking crazy. Capiche?
You're watching Past the Wire TV.
And ladies and gentlemen, we direct your attention to the winner's circle for a very special presentation. Representatives from Handicapping for Horses, along with professional handicapper Jonathan Stetton, are proud to support the work of the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Accepting the check for the inaugural Handicapping for Horses event this past summer at Saratoga are representatives from the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance and Old Friends. Gulfstream Park welcomes Michael Blowen, Jonathan Stetton, Kelly Scobie, Jim Rhodes here this afternoon. Since 2012, the TAA has awarded more than $17.2 million to accredited organizations. Handicapping for Horses looks to make their Saratoga Springs event larger and raise money for Thoroughbreds Aftercare year after year. Once again, thank you to Handicapping for Horses, Jonathan Stetton, and welcome to Old Friends and our friends at the TAA. The Rainbow Six and race number 5 up next.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
You're watching Past the Wire TV, the biggest races at the best tracks. From the Kentucky Derby to the Breeders' Cup. The best horse racing coverage is right here on Past the Wire TV.
Dynasty in motion, reshaping the sport's greatest tradition, channeling the legends of his line and surpassing them. 4 of the last 6 Derby winners carry his genes. A Golden Son, a Horse of the Year. Another chapter written beneath those iconic spires. Derby dreams fulfilled for the titans of our industry. From authentic to sovereignty, a legacy both real and supreme. Into mischief.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final front. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Nobody does it better.